Welcome to WiscoDice! Hey, yo, folks, I am your host, the Conesy with the Most, and I am joined today by...
Hey, this is Justin, the Maples champion here.
And Matt, the Ghost Walker.
And I'm Suzanne.
And this is episode 144 of the WiscoDice Tabletop Gaming Podcast. Today is July 23rd, 2025. And on today's episode, we'll cover our review of one of 2024's hottest releases, SETI, the search for extraterrestrial intelligence. Not sure how that's hot. Space. But we'll find out later. But first, let's roll into what games we've been playing.
All right. So first up is a game that actually one of you all, our listeners, had recommended to me based off a YouTube video we had done and said I needed to check out Forest Shuffle if I like terraforming Mars. And I said, what the heck does a tableau building forest game have to do with terraforming the planet Mars and that engine building? But I can see why now after playing it. So I have played this a ton. I have played it with some of our gaming groups. Conesy has gotten into the mix and I brought it home. And I don't know how many times we've played it. Like, I don't have enough fingers and toes to count how many is on there.
It's a lot of work to shuffle all those forests, though, when we're trees and bushes and animals you're trying to shuffle.
Oh, yes. And don't forget the squeakers and the wild boars. And Deb, you know what I'm talking about if you're listening. So anyway, this is a game that was published in 2023 by Lookout Games. It says on the box it takes about an hour to play. Depending on how familiar people are with the game and if they have a strategy in mind, it might take a lot less than that even, too. It can play up to 5 players, so anywhere from 2 to 5. Does not have a solo mode yet. Myself I've played, and so has Conesy. Matt, I believe you've played, right?
I have indeed.
Or Shuffle. And then Justin, have you had a chance to experience this game?
No, not yet.
Okay, well we gotta get it out sometime when you're around. At its core, to me, this is a tableau building game. And in this game, I kind of would think of it as a highly strategic tableau building game where you're competing to cultivate the most points-rich forest. So does that mean that you have a most diverse forest? No. Does it mean that you have the best soil? No. It's just points is what you're going for, of course. Despite the compact size, like this box is almost a small box game. The game offers I feel a deep gameplay with multiple avenues for scoring, which is one of the things I love about games. Part of the game is that you're going to draw cards and you're going to play them into your personal forest tableau. The cards are going to represent various elements of a thriving ecosystem, including a diverse range of trees. In the base game, there's 8 different varieties of trees. If you add both expansions in that are out right now, the Forest Edge and Alpine, I think you get up to like 10 or 11 trees. There are different small animals. There are large animals, butterflies, birds, bushes, fungus. There's all these different things that you can add to your forest. The clever twist with this game is going to lie in how these cards are played. Each card has a top and a bottom half, and when you play one half, the other half is discarded, potentially benefiting other players. You're not necessarily benefiting other players when you're discarding it. It's that you get to use it. You're going to pay for your cards by discarding cards from your hand, and that's what's going to benefit other players. You may really want to play a butterfly, which is a bad example because you have to discard any cards for that. Maybe you really want to play a sycamore. You have to discard 2 cards. And the only 2 cards you want to get rid of are some birds. And the next player is going for the bird strategy, and that's what they want. You're going to benefit them giving those benefits, those birds out there. It does create this nice puzzle as you're playing with the strategy. And I will say the 2 expansions, they integrate seamlessly into the core game. So it just adds a little bit more depth, a little few more options, but that does not overcomplicate the experience at all. It's just going to add some new card types, a new butterfly, a few new animals and trees. It's a quick play. Like once you know what you're doing, you're either drawing 2 cards or you're playing a card and paying for it. It's quick to go, but it is intense trying to think of what you want to do. You're constantly adapting as a force needs to adapt. You're constantly adapting your plans based on what's available and what your opponents are doing. Like if someone else starts playing that butterfly strategy, you might want to change to a bird strategy because it's going to be more difficult to get the butterflies. But to me, in its essence, Force Shuffle challenges the players to make impactful decisions with the limited resources of cards that you have and trying to balance an immediate gain for some quick points over long-term scoring potential and engine building. I'd say it takes a small footprint I've seen, but really the box is a small footprint. It can get quite large on the table. So that is what I think of Force Shuffle by Lookout Games. And those of you that have played, anything that you want to add for the listeners?
Oh yeah, I love Force Shuffle, which I did not expect myself to love. It is more than just a tableau builder, though. It's mechanism for gathering the cards and drafting those effectively. Also, then the tableau building is really what adds that player interaction component, and you can really get to a point where you hate drafting or hate drawing cards. If certain cards, if you see your opponent playing a butterfly strategy, well, you just hoard all those butterflies in your hand, as long as you can still play a few cards here and there so you don't exceed that hand size. And then as the display board gets filled, there's only 10 cards max that can be on the display board, and then all those cards get discarded out of the game, and then they start refilling eventually.
Actually, so it's once there are 10. It can hold 9 in the clearing, and then it gets wiped once the 10th is laid.
So you just strategically like, oh, hey, I was hoarding these butterflies, but now I have the great perfect opportunity to get rid of them because it's going to discard all 10. So there's lots of little things like that you can do during the game that I think makes it, you have to pay attention to what other people are doing, and you have to also try to make the best of it yourself.
Yeah. I really enjoyed it. I think the art is great. I think the depth of strategy included in planning your moves and how you play. I mean, it sounds so simple. Draw 2 cards or play a card, but coming up with the correct matches and trying to maximize your points at the end is very complicated. I like the way Suzanne put it. It's a puzzle. And that's the part that really draws me, because it's like trying to puzzle out, how do I do it? But also, like Ben said, I can't ignore what Ben's doing in his forest. Because if like, oh, Ben's going for some, hickory strategy, he's trying to build this giant patch of hickory trees. Well, crap, I can't just keep discarding hickories because I just keep giving Ben endgame points or something. So you got to pay attention to what other people are doing too, but try to maximize what you're doing. It's a great puzzle to sort through in your head. I don't, for the number of times I've played it, I don't think I've ever won it, but I just had a ball doing it. The only thing I will say is I feel like this is one of those rare times I'll tell you, get the app. There is an app that somebody released to score this game. The scoring is so weird and complicated at the end. The app is worth having.
Oh, and see, I'm the opposite. I've tried the app, and I do not like using the app to score. I feel like if I go through it very methodically, I can score it, and then I understand where other people have scored well to inform my strategy for next time. But the app is very nice, and it does take out, if you have any concerns about someone scoring it, because you just take a picture, and then it tells you how much points after you've taken all pictures of all the trees in your forest. So it is nice for some people. But yes, this is Force Shuffle. So if you'd like a compact card game that compact in the size of the box, this and something that's got some strategy that plays really well at 2 and all the way up to 5, it is still fun and it is still moving pretty quickly. You should definitely check it out. moving on to a game that has some cards in it, but they don't play much of a role. What have you got for us this month, Justin?
Next game we got here is Role Player Adventures. I've been playing through a campaign of Role Player Adventures with a couple friends of mine, and this is a narrative role-playing campaign, fantasy campaign game from Thunderworks Games. It comes with 11 adventures in the box, which each take probably about 2 to 3 hours to play through, and you can play with 1 to 4 players. So, like I said, this is a narrative role-playing adventure game in the role player universe, and it is inspired by the mechanics of the original role player game from Thunderworks Games, where you build essentially a D&D character by drafting dice to get your dice to become the ability scores that you want. So if you're like a fighter, you might be looking to draft a bunch of 6s into your strength score so that you can have an 18 strength, something like that. And the role player game allows you to manipulate these dice in a variety of ways. So they took that concept and they just went nuts with it and brought those mechanics into this adventure game. So each scenario that you play has an adventure booklet that's going to run you through, the location that you're in, what's going on, the quest that you're on, and all that kind of stuff, and provide you with narrative opportunities to make choices, pursue different paths, and come across different challenges. There are skill challenges and combat challenges, and to do either one of those, you're basically going to use these dice manipulation mechanics. To do like a skill challenge, it's going to tell you, all right, you're trying to jump over this pit, this ravine or something like that. So you need to do like an acrobatics check at this certain level difficulty. And it's going to let you build a pool of dice that you pull from this big bag of dice, so different colored dice. And all the dice that you bring into the dice pool are going to come out of your personal ability scores. So I, just like in D&D, I have strength and intelligence and wisdom and dexterity and stuff like that. And each of those scores gives me a certain amount of stamina. And I can spend that stamina to then bring one of these dice into the pool. And we're trying to achieve a certain score with certain colored dice to achieve a particular skill check. For something like acrobatics, it's going to use the dexterity skill a lot. So we might need to have a green die, which is like the dexterity die, to come up as a 4. And we need a green 2 as well. But then we also need maybe a strength die that's set to a 6 or something like that. So you're trying to build this combination of dice by pulling dice out of the bag, rolling them, and then manipulating them. The cards in the game that Suzanne mentioned represent your weapons, your equipment, your abilities, your personality traits, and all of those have special different ways for you to manipulate dice. So one of them might say, hey, this sword lets you increase red dice by 1. So if I needed to roll a 6 and I only rolled a 5, I can then, on my turn in the skill check, play that card and bump that dice up to a 6 to get it to where I need it to be. And so the puzzle of the game is everybody using their abilities and weapon cards to manipulate the dice and beat a skill check or defeat an enemy in combat. So that's the other big aspect of the game, is this dice manipulation puzzle that comes up every time that you have a skill check or a combat. The narrative side of the game is really strong. I think the writing is really, really good, and each adventure is totally different. Like they're just, you really go all around this realm and experience tons of different kinds of NPCs and funny situations, and it's really well designed to the point of there's like a lot of branching paths that you can take. And you'll kind of, as you're playing it, the game will be like, hey, do you have this special card that says that you took this other path, previously in the game? And if you went a certain way, those repercussions will come up in a later adventure. So it really has this cool way of making your choices matter as well. I think we're like adventure 7 out of the 11 right now. So we're pretty far along. And one thing I will say that I came across when I was sort of researching and looking up, like wanting to start playing this game, is there are some complaints online about how easy this game is. When I started playing this game, it seemed like winning challenges and beating combats was practically impossible with the resources that we had. Like every combat was this challenge to try to get through without depleting like every single piece of stamina that we had. But as you do go on in the adventure, you gain all these abilities and weapons and new stuff. and they really kind of pile it on at a point. So I am starting to see that, like, with all the stuff that we've gathered in our characters, all the abilities and tools that we have, it is getting easier and easier. So I can kind of see where that criticism comes from. But for the most part, we're just playing it for fun, and we're not too worried about it being easy or hard or whatever. I know you guys have played this one. What are your thoughts on it?
We did actually play this before. This is actually been reviewed by Suzanne and I and our friend Brian, who played it with us. So you can check that review out of this game actually on our YouTube channel. We'll have a link in the show notes for you to get to it. However, yeah, a lot of those sentiments you had about it, yes, early, like, we took a beating, I think, in the first mission, like, as far as how it goes. And I don't want to tell anything because it's a great story, and one of the best parts of this game is playing through the story of it.
Yes.
And there is 3 different kind of paths or outcomes that you can get in it. Mm-hmm. But it feels like, from a gameplay perspective, if you're looking for like a meaty, crunchy game, like if you're looking for like, oh hey, this is going to be the same kind of game as, say, a Frosthaven or Gloomhaven, dungeon crawly campaign, meaty gameplay, it is not. No. But where I would say Frosthaven and Gloomhaven kind of, there's a story arc there, but when was the last time I was paying attention to the story when I was playing Frosthaven and Gloomhaven? It's hard to pick. It's sometimes hard because you're bouncing back and forth and doing missions all over the place. Where this is, you definitely have a very good feel of the story, who the factions are, and I would equate the gameplay experience to very much to those old Choose Your Own Adventure books.
Oh, sure. Yeah, that's a good analogy.
It's exactly like that, but then it has, like, basically that's exactly how the game is, except then when you get to an encounter, you resolve it just the way Justin described, which is a really neat way to do it. Again, you'll find all the things that we talked about it from the review perspective, and we do a non-spoiler review, and then when we get into some of the spoiler elements, I think, about halfway through that review.
Yep. So I do have a question for you, Justin. Did you roll up your characters from playing a game of role player, or did you take characters from the game box for this?
No, that was tempting. You can start the game by creating a character, by playing the game role player, and then bringing them in, porting them into this game, which is really cool. Like, very, very clever. But no, we use the pre-generated characters for this one. Those ones have really cool art and pictures. There's this huge slew. I mean, there's like maybe 40 different characters to choose from, and they're like anything from your typical dwarves and elves to robot people and penguins. One of the players in my game plays a penguin guy.
I played a penguin guy. Yeah. I did not like that because my penguin guy didn't have arms in the picture. But yet he was like swinging a sword and everything. But yes,
well, it was fantasy.
It is totally fantasy that way. So no, it's very silly. It's nice that you don't have to make up your character from scratch if that's not something you're interested in. So,
and I would say, like, there's a number of expansions for this one as well. The expansion that I feel like is a must to own, and it is absolutely worth it to own and just add in as you're playing the base campaign that comes in Role Player Adventures is Nephra's Judgment, which adds some really cool extra little things for your character to kind of discover that are unique for your character without changing really anything significant or dramatic for the gameplay. Doesn't change the story. All the other expansions that are out there for this game are just new story arcs or new adventures. So, and I really like, they just had a Kickstarter for, some form of crowdfunding for a new set of adventures, but they're going to use all of the core maps that came from Role Player Adventures. So from the base game, from the original base game. So it's going to be new. So you can get so you could get the electronic versions of these adventures and you're going to be going to those locations. I think there might be some cards or something you need to print out then if you get the electronic PDFs. Maybe you don't have to. I don't know. I didn't pay attention that much because I was getting the physical copies. It definitely is a way to get another chance to play and get more replayability out of the same content. It is a little bit of a pricey box at full retail price.
It's true. It's not too hard to find on discount, I would say, here and there. But yeah, it's a lot of game in one box. I mean, it's a 11 adventure campaign. And I did want to say too, regarding that Nephris Judgment expansion, we did play with that, and I do recommend just starting off your first adventure using that module. As Ben said, it doesn't really change mechanics. It just adds this cool backstory element, and it introduces special backstory story moments throughout each of the adventures. And so starting the game with it just sets you up on a better footing to enjoy that expansion. So just do it from adventure 1. Would be my recommendation.
Absolutely. And there are some over the 10 main games to the play locations you play on and you have adventures on, there are some really cool, really wild adventure locations you will go to as the campaign develops, which is really awesome.
Yep. All displayed in these really cool high quality maps. It's really immersive. It's a really fun adventure experience. That is Role Player Adventures. I recommend it. And I also recommend that you go to WiscoDice.com to check out the links for all the games we've discussed. And while you're at it, please review this podcast wherever you download podcasts. Do it now.
Yes, do it now. So let's roll into the big review for this episode. SETI, the search for extraterrestrial intelligence. Yeah, what that word from this game. So Justin, why don't you tell us what this game is kind of like?
In SETI, you're going to take on the role of a fledgling space agency, scanning space and sending out probes to search for signs of alien life. The centerpiece of the game is this rotating solar system board with all the planets, solar system, and asteroids and comets that rotates as the game progresses. You're going to send out probes from Earth into the solar system to orbit and land on other planets. You're going to fund special projects from this huge deck of cards throughout the game that are all based on real or planned technology in the real world. And you're going to be able to improve all your technological capabilities by researching upgrades to your probes and your scanning or your computer technology. And then many of your actions are going to lead you to finding traces of alien life. And once enough of these traces have been found, you will discover one of 2 unique alien species for your game that is going to bring in its whole own new set of unique mechanics to change the game as for the remainder of however many rounds you have left. The game plays over 5 rounds, and the player who's earned the most points from their various research activities, special mission projects, and endgame milestones will be the winner.
Yeah, so if we dive into the gameplay a little bit more in depth, we talk about the core mechanics. This game at its heart is really a card and resource management game. So there's a couple of pretty basic resources. Money is your kind of primary one, but you also have energy, and then cards, really. Those are your 3 resources. Cards can be a resource in a lot of ways. These cards are multi-use. Not only are they multi-use, but there is not a single card in the game that's the same. They're all different and unique, which is very kind of like sometimes that doesn't necessarily sink in. Like, hey, I'm never going to see this card again. I'm never going to have a chance to get this, whatever it is that's on this card ever again in this game, which can, be a little shocking for the first time you play it. But the cards, like I said, they're multi-used. They can be used as a, whatever the card text is, they do on the card. They can be used to potentially for scanning for signals. They can be used for, as a free action to help get you something extra, a little boost during your turn. Now, your actions all revolve around, let's talk about the main actions here. The turn itself, is really a single main action when it's your turn, and then you can do an unlimited number of bonus actions, free actions. And those main actions are things like launching probes, so sending them out, like Justin talked about, into the solar system so that you can eventually turn them into landers or satellites. When you do that, you're going to get a whole bunch of points and potential resources or better income generation. You can kind of imagine yourself when you do these things as you're getting a lot of press and a lot of media and financial backing for having successful space projects. So that's why you get these rewards. But you can also rent out space basically on huge radar telescopes and other telescopes to scan the night skies from Earth and look and see if you can pick up signals and data. And when you do that, you're going to be getting these little round data disks and marking certain sectors on the game board with your own player markers. Now, when you get all that data, those blue disks, you're going to get that data, and it's going to get stored in your computer. It's like your computer on their main player board has like its own little hard drive, and then when you run the data in your computer, you're kind of putting it into memory so that the computer can process it. And once you have enough data in your computer where it's in memory, you can take an action to one of your main actions to process that data, which gets you a potential or gets you an alien trace, which is one of the cool things, being able to interact and discover those aliens. And then finally, as one of the last main action you can do is you can unlock new technologies. So all of these things that you can do, you have these, whether you're really focused on launching probes and doing landers and satellites, or you want to have your computer be more efficient, or you want yours to be able to scan the skies better, you can unlock additional technologies to make all of those actions just far more efficient. Now, all of those actions kind of combine into what you're doing, and then at certain points, they're marked as a gold score marker on the player board. You will end up reaching those points, and then there are going to be end game scoring conditions. So when you hit like 25 and 50, and I think it's 70 points on the board, you'll get to mark an end game scoring condition. It's first come, first serve. Whoever marks it first is going to be able to get the most points for it. But if you're marking something early in the game, who knows if you're actually going to be good at it by the time you're done with the games. It can be an interesting challenge. Which one do I pick this first time or even the third time? By the time you get to the third one, you're like, which one might I get some points off of, because it's too late in the game to maybe adjust what you've done too much to be able to get a whole lot of scoring out of it. There's a lot of opportunities to do all of these different actions and drive yourself towards a really interesting result with all of these different mechanics and actions that you can do. But I guess that's my overall for the game. There's a lot more detail. This game's a big, heavy game. So I could sit here for the next 20 minutes and tell you about all the different mechanics and mechanisms. But how does it all kind of work in practice?
As Ben said, this is definitely a heavy game, but I feel like it's an easy to learn game given the way the game kind of, I want to call it spools up, because when you start, there's not as many things that you can do. Your actions, I will say, as Ben kind of alluded to, are a little inefficient. You might only be able to take one main action that's, hey, you only get to do one thing, launch a probe or do this other thing. But over time, I feel like where this game shines is it kind of ramps up and teaches you as it goes how to gain more action efficiency. And that's kind of the engine side of this game, is building your engine so that you're more efficient. We had one game that we played, Ben really focused on being able to scan the night sky. So all his upgrades were focused on how do I make scanning the night sky really efficient? And he was able to do lots when he took one scan action. So it's one of those things that I feel like is super easy to teach from one perspective, because there's not a lot of things you can do on your turn, but it's the complexity as the game grows of what does that one action become. Instead of just I launch a probe, it's like I can maybe launch a couple, or I can launch the probe and gain some extra stuff. And the scoring tiles as well, like Ben said, as you're kind of moving around and earning points, will also drive you certain directions. You might say, hey, I got here first and I picked one that had to do with scanning the night sky. Well, if you don't focus on it, that getting there first might not earn you a whole lot of victory points at the end of the game. So you have to be able to kind of keep an eye on all the ways you can earn points and focus on a few while not ignoring any of them. Because almost every unique type of action has a chance to earn you certain types of resources that will enable you to do certain things. So if you want to focus on, say, getting certain types of research or certain things that will enable you to detect aliens, you might have to land a few probes on a moon or a planet, or you might have to put an orbiter in place in a couple places. Now, the other thing is that we haven't really touched on is there's a whole strategy on how you use, we've talked about this moving solar system, because as you're trying to get probes and scan the night sky, there's a whole strategy around how can I manipulate this to maybe make my moves with my probes more efficient. Because it's expensive sometimes to move through asteroid belts or to get all the way to Jupiter that's on the far side. Just like our solar system, as it rotates around, I become closer. It becomes easier to get there. My probe gets carried around. So it's really that kind of balancing. Do you launch the probes? Do you scan from Earth? Do you try to land on other planets? And the strategy is definitely deep, and I think it's going to be one of those games that you're going to play and learn and play again and learn something different and play and see a strategy that one time somebody did and it worked really well, and you might try to emulate it, but then realize the next time that scoring tile wasn't there, the alien that they were leveraging wasn't there, and so the strategy really evolves with every play. There's a lot of replayability. As for accessibility, I think the game has some solid iconography. It's not overly complex. It makes it easy to learn. As for player interaction, there's definitely some player interaction for those of you who are like, haha, I tried to get the other person. There's a reason in the world we say there's a space race, right? Sometimes you're going to be racing people to be the best at scanning a sector because you might get an extra bonus to help you with aliens if you scan a sector and you want to have the most things there. You might be trying to be the first to land a probe on Jupiter because it gets you some special bonus. You might try to be the first to land on a moon or an asteroid. Sometimes being the first there is good. Sometimes you'll see on the tracks being the second there is better. So it's interesting how they kind of balance it by in some places you want to be first, sometimes you want to be second, sometimes you just want to be the most to do something. As for player count, it's listed at 1 to 4 players. There is a solo mode where there's a way to interact. It says 40 to 160 minutes. I felt like when we played it, it clocked in at about 3 to 4 hours, I want to say, when we played. I think if you know the game well, you could get it closer to the 3-hour mark if you're playing with a full 4 players, but there's a lot going on there. It definitely has plenty of depth as far as strategy. It can be learned very easy. But what about the table presence?
Well, the table presence, pretty good. It's a game that's caught people's eyes. So I want to kind of go through some of the artwork, how I feel the theme is integrated, and then the component quality too, to talk about all that. I feel like all those things are important for kind of just the feel of it, and in keeping you engaged when you're playing. Starting with the artwork. So the artwork for SETI is definitely, to me, one of its standout features. It's contributing significantly to the game's immersive thematic experience without ever becoming like a distraction from this gameplay. Like, I am one that, if the board is too busy, I have a hard time playing with it. I don't care how simple the game seems. I feel that the color palette is very harmonious, and the board itself in front of you and the player board are divided into distinct areas just kind of naturally with the colors they chose. And this kind of leads to like one of the most commendable aspects of it that I feel is the artwork and how the colors just blend together. It feels like this sophisticated kind of sci-fi feel that's just visually pleasing, and that just draws you in with kind of feeling of calm as you're exploring the galaxies and searching out there. Because in space, there's no sound, as we all know and have, of course, experienced when we've been to space. But I mean, isn't that what you guys do on the weekends? Is take a rocket up there and just sit in space to get some calm? I will say, for all of that you see on the board and everything, the cards are where the artwork is truly going to shine. I will say, I feel like the quality of the art on these cards is consistently high through all of them and immerses you in the theme. The art is detailed enough to be engaging, but it's still easy, again, to see the crucial game information, like, hey, what's the cost, what are the actions, what are you going to get from it, that's printed on the cards. This kind of ensures that it's enhancing the gameplay as well as the thematic depth without giving you like, oh, what is that? I don't have to get my readers out to play this game. So I'll say, like, the artwork overall is not just pretty, but it feels like it was very intentionally crafted to elevate the gaming experience. And I think anytime that we've had this game out at a place, even at our own house for a game day, people are just drawn to it. The theme, though, is something that draws a lot of people in. I've interacted with several people over even just the last couple of weeks that tell me that, very much like me, that, hey, if it's a space thing, they want to check it out and see what the take is on that space. It's kind of another realm of fantasy in some ways, but this is based on true things, so it's not complete fantasy. I know that. Conzi. You don't have to tell me that. The theme, they do an admirable job of integrating the scientific theme with these Euro sound mechanics that are creating this narrative, as others have talked about, as Matt and Cozy just were kind of talking about, that you're going through space and you're discovering and moving out. So it's the theme of that narrative is brought through for me. You're balancing your tasks versus the discovery, and this gameplay is just looping everything together beautifully. So there is some research management, and that brings that management that you need to have to get to those further out planets or just discover everything. It does bring through that theme too, with, hey, I need to plan for this. And do you get rewarded for building a strong engine that you can tackle the more challenging? You definitely do. If you're not using everything wisely and you're staying closer to the center of the board, and you're going to see some instant points and have some instant gratification, but just like in the real space race, you're not going to last very long or get very far. Last part, I'm actually a really huge fan of this, and I did not realize this when we purchased it until I opened it up. But these components, Games Edition, or CGE, is known a lot of times for its impressive component quality and this thematic artwork. But with this one, they have rewood pieces. So a lot of the player pieces are where they've taken, kind of wood and compressed it, so it's almost like reused it. So it almost looks like plastic, but they're recycling these rejected pieces of wood and giving them purpose. Same for the data tokens and the sun tokens in the middle. That's all replastic. So basically a fancy way of saying it's like recycled plastic, but it's done in this a pretty ecological way for game components. And then everything else is cardboard or paper for your tokens, your credits, your reference sheet, all those things. So while you're still, it's not 100% green, it is pretty close to a green game that you can get right now and still have quality components that are going to feel like they are going to last for a while. So those are all things I really enjoy about the game and the presence and everything for it. So that being said, no matter how cool I think these components and artwork are. The game is not going to be any good if the rules can't be taught. If you just have all this stuff out there and you have to make your own rules up, not so much fun. So I think that brings us to a really crucial part of our discussion. SETI's rulebook. Justin, what are your thoughts on deciphering those alien written instructions?
Yeah, I've read through the rules a number of times. I've taught the game at least 3 times to different people, different groups. And I will say the rules are mostly good. I think they do a good job and bring some of that really nice graphic design that you were talking about into the design of the rule book, and it mostly flows really well, and it's laid out pretty cleanly, and it makes it very clear. Okay, here's a main action I'm talking about. Here's another main action. Here's little info boxes to describe some detail about the main action, and it's easy to read, and I think it turns it into an easy to teach game. There are, I think, some awkward layouts in the rule book that made it hard for me to look up specific bits of information when I was trying to find them when a question came up during the game. There's a couple of layouts in there that, rather than being sort of a typical book format, it's a big image with like info boxes sort of spread all around with the solar system in the background. So it's trying to show you the game in play. I get what they're trying to do, but I don't think it works as well when you're trying to sort of just scan for like, I need this particular piece of information. How do I find that, when it's sort of this more artistic layout? So while I appreciate the aesthetics of it, some of those layouts I question a little bit for readability. And I guess I'll also talk about sort of just setup of the game when you're starting off. Ultimately, I think it's really pretty painless. This is an easy game to set up. You just need to assemble the solar system board. You pick a couple aliens to include in your game, hand out player boards, put the cards out. The only real annoying part is setting out these little 48 different technology upgrade tiles that have to go in these specific spots on the board. But other than that, like it's an easy setup, and I've had success teaching it multiple times, to the point of I got walloped by the last group I taught this to and lost really badly. So I think I taught pretty well. What other thoughts do we have about this?
So you mentioned setup there. One of the things I'll note is it's not really a setup related issue, but it's definitely something that we thought about with how we store the game in the box. And that's because about midway through the game, you have this reveal of these alien life forms, right? And all of a sudden, you're like in the middle of the game, like, oh, I gotta do this new setup steps, right? And that can be really disruptive to like the flow of gameplay.
Yeah,
we went out of our way to bag each one of the different 5 alien species in their own bags, so all the components are together and whatnot. So he was like, oh, hey, I revealed this, grab the bag, and it's pretty quick, and grab the rule sheet, and it's pretty quick to go through the motions and get it set up. But I've played that with another player's copy, and it was the second we hit an alien reveal, it was like a good 5 minutes at least of downtime while they were scrambling, rummaging through their box, trying to find all the materials and make sure they had them all. Yeah, so that is definitely an interesting little supplement point. Another little supplement point that I would add is this game is super highly replayable, and the game changes like what you maybe want to do or how you need to maybe change what you're doing because of the different aliens that actually show up. Hopefully they show up somewhere in turn 2 for you or early turn 3. But one of the actions that I also want to say is one of the hardest actions I think for players to get their heads around, and this is partially the way the action works, because it's kind of an area control mechanic, but also that action is the one that you could do it a bunch and then get almost minimal reward for it for spending a number of actions doing it, and that is the scanning action. And so, as I said when we were kind of talking about the rules, when you scan, you're going to take like one of your markers and put it in a sector, and this sector has so many data disks there. But once the last data disk is taken at the end of the round, that sector is going to get rewarded to the person who has the most tokens at that sector, that has the most player tokens. Well, what happens if there's a tie? It's not the person who placed their tokens first that breaks the tie. It is the person who placed their tokens last. And so you could have been like, okay, I'm scanning. I really need this blue sector, and I have 3 tokens on it, and I'm really dominant, and Justin has 1 token on it, and then Justin goes, drops 2 tokens on his turn, and then rewards its reward, and Justin gets the reward because he was the last player to place a token on it. And that can sometimes, that can be like really frustrating, and it feels really unrewarding sometimes to scan and be like, oh, well, I'm going to be vulnerable now to somebody else taking advantage of all of my hard work.
It is a weird tie-break mechanism that I have not seen in many games.
No,
Yeah.
being the person who does something last is typically not the way that usually rewards out.
No.
I think in this scenario, it's like, I think they're trying to play it as you're the one who made the final discovery kind of thing. But
Yeah.
I get the frustration on that one, though.
I mean, it makes total sense. Like from a theme perspective, like it is. Hey, I made the discovery here. I found the alien trace. Woohoo! Look at me.
Yep.
But
See, you're just sitting back and you're biding your time and you're acquiring and analyzing data from other people. Then when you go and make your move to scan, you're using everyone else's data to do the best option.
it
Works.
It isn't that you don't get any reward for doing it though either, right? It is, you definitely get, when it goes and it's awarded and somebody else wins it and you still get a reward for it. But I will note, like if you really needed to, like some of the things it'll tell you need to basically have 2 blue sectors, let's say.
Yeah.
The chances of tipping over, like I've played some games where I'm scanning a lot, and the chances of tipping over 2 blue sectors in a game feels really hard to do. If somebody comes in at the last minute and snabs one from me, and I was really trying hard to get it to score, and the planets wouldn't align so I could get my scans correctly, which is literally a thing in this game.
Yeah.
Somebody else snabs it out from under, you might not get that second blue sector the entire game.
Mm-hmm.
Like, just because it's like getting enough data or getting these sectors cleared of data can be, it takes a lot of work, especially if there's only like one player kind of focusing on doing it, and then all of a sudden, like I said, it can get tipped over in a hurry on you sometimes. It doesn't happen all the time, but it definitely, like in our play, it definitely happened a couple of times where somebody snabbed the sector out from under somebody else.
Yeah, I think I snabbed it from you once, but I had a hard time keeping up with your scanning. But it happened to you, I want to say 2 or 3 times, because you were our heavy scanner. Like it seemed like that was your focus for that game. Because I was sitting there landing probes on planets, and you're like, I'm scanning.
Yeah. Don't worry, I turned scanning into the path for victory in the next game. So hey, but it has felt like it's a bit of it feels like it can be a bit of a struggle until you've played it enough times to kind of get it figured out what you want to do. That's kind of a note of maybe a feature that I didn't care for, but what are some of the things that we really liked about this game that really stood out for us?
Yeah, I can start off. I really enjoy revealing the aliens game. I think that is just super cool and unique, and I love the fact that they bring in their own special mechanics as soon as they come out to change the game. In one game I taught to some new players, I took at least one non-strategic action that really benefited somebody else way more than myself, because I knew it would basically result in one of the aliens getting triggered really early on. I was like, I just want the alien to come out. I want to see what their mechanics are. Like, I had already contributed some to the reveal of the alien, so I knew I would get a little bit of a reward for doing it too in that respect. But to me, that's a big part of the fun of the game is finding out what aliens in your game and seeing how they're going to change things for you. So I like to try to, yeah.
I say, oh, for sure. Yeah, those aliens sometimes, like, it can be, hey, I'm going to do something that's going to help maybe somebody else just so we can get that out, because it changes the game state so much. Some of those aliens they're very much about end game scoring, where some of those aliens are much more about, like, can be very disruptive to the game almost. So it could be, there's one alien that's got that risk mechanic, right, where you can play some cards and maybe it should reward, there's good rewards, but oops, don't be the person that had that bet the most on it, because you're going to lose 10% of your points.
Yeah, I like that one a lot.
Yeah. I think for me, I am just a huge fan of science in general. And I studied chemistry and physics in college. I actually my roommate was an astrophysicist, he was an aeronautics engineer. So guy who actually builds rockets and stuff to go to space. So I've always kind of had this love of science, and this game has so many real life things in it. So you actually see the Hubble. There's a card on the Hubble Space Telescope. There's all the big name like missions and things that are planned in the future. And I just really like that because the cards are so well done and they kind of make sense with whatever was going on in that. So as a bit of a science geek, I just really like that aspect of the game because they have some really cool stuff that actually links to real life things that happen with NASA and other countries and things like that. So
one of the aliens in the game is a real thing that happened, right?
Yeah,
The whatever, I can't say that.
Oumuamua or something.
Yeah,
like
that.
Oumuamua, right, or something like that.
First interstellar object observed by humanity that came into our solar system from outside of the solar system and then left, apparently speeding up on its way out.
Yep.
Nobody knows actually what it was or what caused that or why it did that or how it did that, So there's a lot of theories out there in the scientific community, and it was cool to see that in the game.
Yeah.
I love the ability to change strategy from game to game, though, and it still feels very like you're doing. Like I very much get into the kind of almost the role playing idea of some of these actions, and I think you probably heard it as I described some of these actions in this game because it feels like you can see how the mechanics are trying to represent these larger real world things that are happening. And in a recent game, it was amazing. Like from a scanning, we talked. Like I've been trying to figure out how to make scanning really work in that game. The last couple of plays that I played, it was crazy how many times I was able to do a scan action in a turn, either from cards giving me the ability to scan, or just taking the scan action and paying the default cost for it. And with a couple of upgrades, I was just spamming scans like crazy. In fact, it set me up really good in the data perspective. But it's also definitely something that I've observed in this game, kind of going back to things that you observe. I've observed over multiple plays now that just like I think real world scientists, like they would love to be able to have programs that are that they're running that's sending probes and doing scanning from these telescopes and all of these things. But the reality is that an organization's only probably doing one or the other, trying to manage all of them. There's just not enough funding or whatever. So you tend to find yourself, at least I find myself, if I want to be successful in this game, focusing really hard early especially in the early game, doing one or the other, and then eventually maybe branching out as I need to maybe grab a couple extra data from scanning or to get something to land on a probe somewhere. But those are all of my observations and things that I liked. Any you guys have anything else that you guys loved about this game before we get into ratings?
I mean, I think what I really enjoyed about this game is different than what the other three of you enjoy about this game. And most of our listeners, hopefully, if you've been listening to us for a while, know that my all-time favorite game right now is Terraforming Mars. I am a sucker for space-themed games. Even if it's like a bad game, if it's got space theme on it, I usually enjoy playing it. But one of the things that makes Terraforming Mars such a great game for me is that you are seeing the terraforming happen right in front of you as you're putting oceans and greenery tiles out and everything. So likewise in SETI, you are seeing your probes move through the solar system and out to space. You're seeing the data get collected. You are building up your little, it's not a business, but your little, space observation station on your player board. You're making it stronger. And so seeing the growth on it is something that really kind of gets me excited about this game. Is how am I going to grow this next time? What am I going to focus on? Watching us all interact and sort of get into each other's way without being super take that. You can, be backstabby in some games, referring to Terraforming Mars again, like there's cards in there where you steal other people's resources. There's no stealing someone else's resources in this game. There is, scanning and getting the last couple spots somewhere or beating them to a location, which is that competitiveness in kind of a nice way for it. So that's kind of what I'm enjoying is Conesy's falling asleep listening to what excites me about SETI.
I'm not falling asleep over here.
Your
I was just
head is
thinking,
going down to the side. I'm watching you.
oh, jeepers! I was just gonna say how what you're talking about to me sounds like elements of this immersive element that I absolutely totally get out of this game. Right? It feels very much like I'm running maybe a nation's space program while I'm playing this game, and I'm competing against these other organizations to do all of these things and be the one that's discovered the aliens and went to Jupiter and landed on the moons of Saturn. I want to be the person that's done those things first, right? And like that agency that's done those things first, because hey, we're going to get that big claim to fame that we did these things. It definitely feels for me like that big immersive game like that. But at WiscoDice, we do rank games on a 1 to 10 scale, where a 1 is like being the intern that is running an errand to get coffee when the signals were detected of alien life. Sorry, too bad you were at the coffee shop. You don't get your name in the credit book. However, a 10 would be like friendly aliens have come to Earth and you personally discovered, and they just want to talk to you and find out all about you and make your world the happiest world, sharing all of their technology and wisdom with you and humanity. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and kick things off and give this game a rating of a solid 8. I really, right now, have super been enjoying playing this game. If I would have had a chance to play this game last year, I think this game would have been my game of the year. It really, really is very good. It is probably the game that I enjoyed the most that actually released in 2024 out of the year.
For me, I am also a very big fan of this game. I think the theme is unique. The mechanics are solid. And each time that I've played it, I kept thinking about the game afterwards, trying to think of what I could do different the next time, new strategies I could take, new paths I could try. I'd be hyped to play this game anytime. It's really good. So I'm giving this game an 8.5 for me.
Yeah. I gave it a solid 8, like Ben. I really enjoyed my plays of this game. I want to play it again. I'd love to see it hit the table. It was just a lot of fun, very much like Justin. I feel like I finished the game and I wasn't downtrodden. I was just like, oh, I could do this a little different. Or I bet if I focused on that, or, it was just the game is a little bit of a puzzle. It's complicated enough that it's a bit of a puzzle, but it wasn't a puzzle that I was just felt beat up and down after played. So I'm kind of like, I would play this anytime right now if I had the time.
Yep. I guess we're all giving it some form of an 8. I can't push it up that extra half point yet. I haven't won the game enough to make it be like, hey, I can play this and be super competitive with everyone else. But I definitely enjoy this. Like I said, I love the theme and the multiple strategies. Everything, the strategies so far to me have failed pretty balanced, unless you totally screw something up. The strategy, whatever strategy you take, works out. And I have in my notes, I put that it feels like a deck builder, but it's not really a deck builder. I'm just kind of getting cards that I'm going to use, and I like games with cards, I think is what it is. So I put, I guess, a deck builder in front of me, but not really.
Well, that is SETI, the Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence from CGE. Keep an eye out, too. There is an expansion that is coming. Hopefully, we'll be able to get our hands on and play to get with that as well. I'm looking forward to it. But it looks like this game is still pretty widely available, too, in retail, so you can get a copy of it today if you want. We also talked about a couple of other amazing games today. First, we talked about Role Player Adventures from Thunderworks Games, this big adventure game, multi-session campaign game with lots of adventures and replayability in it. And then also we talked about Forest Shuffle, where we shuffled lots of forests. And this one was from Lookout Games.
Thank you so much for listening. Make sure you leave a review of this show wherever your favorite place is to find podcasts. Oh, and by the way, give us a like on our Facebook page. And don't forget to follow us on Twitter, Instagram, or Pinterest while you're at it. If you haven't looked recently, make sure you catch up on the blog at WiscoDice.com. Hey, Brian, what's that site?
Oh, darn, I forget. Justin, what's our website again?
WiscoDice.com.
That's right, it's WiscoDice.com. And until next time, everyone, peace out.